Hi friends, it's Jarle here. I have a Valentine's Day card to share with you today. I used a few supplies from the Lawn Fawn Valentine release. I started by die cutting a rectangle with the outside in stitched rectangles. I used Bristol smooth cardstock for that. Then I made a little loop with some purple tape and I put that on the back side of my panel. Then I adhered it to my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. I am going to do some stenciling and I don't want my panel to move. So I'm using these hard reed stencils from Lawn Fawn. I start with the first stencil, which has all of the greenery. I put it down on my card panel and I secure it with the magnets. Then I'm taking some green distress inks and I'm starting out with the color Cracked Pistachio. This is a light green and I'm going over the whole area with a small blending brush. Then I'm taking a slightly darker color, which is the Lucky Clover, and I'm going over just a few spots. This will make sure that I have a little bit of color variation in my wreath. It's very subtle in the end results. When I'm done with this stencil, I take it off and I line up the second stencil, which has all the hearts. I'm using saltwater taffy as my base color. So again, I'm stenciling over the whole area again, so all of those little hearts. Then I'm taking the picked raspberry to add a bit of shading to the wreath. Just as I did before with the greens, I only use the darker pink on a few areas. And to make sure I have a good blend, I go over it again with the base color. And now for the big reveal. I have this cute little heart wreath on my card panel. And you may not notice it on camera, but I did have two little smudges. So I used my eraser from Couture Creations to take these off. You just go over the ink spots with the eraser and they magically disappear. This worked like a charm. You don't see any more ink smudges. For my sentiment, I decided to use the Magic Heart Messages stamp set. I chose the heart that says, "You make my heart happy." First, I prepped my cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and then I stamped my heart with Versamark ink. And I made sure to press it down firmly. Then I sprinkled on some gold embossing powder and I tapped off all the excess powder. Off camera, I heat set it with my heat gun. I took the coordinating die and I die cut the heart so it has that lovely stitching detail. In this sentiment, you can color in the words heart, and I did this with a pink polychromos pencil. The teeny tiny leaves were done with a green pencil. You don't really have to color this in, but I did want to add a little bit of color inside that little heart. When the coloring was done, I put on some foam squares on the back of the heart and I adhered it to the card panel on the inside of the wreath. And I just love that little pop of dimension. Now on to my images. I chose 3 bees from the High 5 stamp set and I stamped them with Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink onto Transotype Perfect Coloring paper, which is my go-to paper for Copic coloring. Now off camera I colored them in with Copic markers. You can find all the colors in the description box below. Again, I used the coordinating dies to cut these images out. Then I played around with placement a bit and I then decided I wanted to add a few splatters first. So I took out my Ganzai Tambi paint set and I splattered on black paint. Now to protect my sentiment, I just added a scrap piece of paper on top of it. And I think the splatters give it a more finishing touch. Splatters are always a good idea, I think. Also, a mix of black and gold splatters would have been a good idea as well. I'm really loving how it's turning out so far. Then I trimmed down a piece of the fruit salad paper pack to 4¼ by 5½ inches. Since I used the outside-in stitched rectangles, I could have a beautiful pink border around the card panel. At this point, I did want to add an additional sentiment from the same Magic Heart Messages stamp set. So I stamped the Love You Lots on black licorice cardstock. Again, I prepped my cardstock with a powder tool. Then I stamped the sentiment with the same Versamark ink as before. I sprinkled on gold embossing powder, and after tapping off the excess, I heat set it with my heat gun. I did this off camera since my heat gun is on the kitchen counter. I trimmed down the sentiment to a little rectangle. After fiddling with the placement again, I adhered everything down. I started with my sentiment, and then I also added foam squares to the back of all those little bees. Then I put on some dry adhesive on the back of the card panel and I adhered it on the fruit salad patterned paper, just making sure that everything is just nice and straight. For my card base, I took a piece of heavyweight cardstock, which is 11 by 4¼ Then I scored it at 5½ to have a top folding card base. I adhered my card panel on that white card base and that finished off my card. This was an easy card to make. You don't even need those bee images. I think it would look cute with just that heart wreath and the sentiment in the middle as well. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your support. Have a great day. Bye!